Here's a system that I use to prevent turnovers and keep my rental income both profitable and predictable. This matters so much more than you think. Most landlords are not proactive about lease renewals, and they're leaving money on the table in two distinct ways. The first way that this is costing you money is what I call the silent move out. What's a silent move out, you might ask? Well, let's say you've had a tenant who's been there coming up on a year, and their lease expires, I don't know, April 30th, 2026. So in their mind, right, my lease is over April 30th. I'm going to move in here. I'm going to move there. I'm moving over here. They're moving out, right? So they're in their mind like, hey, I fulfilled my obligations as a tenant. I agreed to be there for a year. The year is up. I'm moving on, right? Then that April 30th comes. They move out the first of the month, May 1st. You're putting the rent on their ledger, and they're probably not going to pay it since they've moved out. So when you finally do reach out to them and say, hey, Mr. Tenant, what's going on? You haven't paid your May rent. And what's Mr. Tenant going to say? They're going to respond to you and they're going to say, why would I pay rent? My lease is up and I don't live at the property anymore. What kind of position does that put you in? Oh my gosh. So now you're in a position where the tenant has moved out. So your property's been vacant, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. Who knows? Your property's vacant, right? You're not collecting rent. You have not coordinated with your contractor to do the turnover, right? So he may be extremely busy because you weren't proactive in getting that coordinated, right? And you haven't coordinated with your leasing agent to start marketing and advertising the property. So you're really this is gonna end up costing you a lot of money. Everything now is getting pulled out. If you're normally able to have 1 month vacancy on a turnover, right now you're gonna have a 2 to 3 month vacancy because you were so far behind the 8 ball. So that's why it's so important. I've been a landlord for 25 years, and you might be sitting there asking yourself, a tenant is gonna leave without giving any notice? And I'm here to tell you, yes, it happens. The second way this is costing you money is what I like to call stale rent. What's stale rent, you might ask? Let's say you have a tenant that moved in a year ago and they were at, let's say, $1,000 a month. Well, on that 13th month, after that lease ends, on that 13th month, they're not going to call you up and say, hey, the lease term is over. Do you want to increase the rent now for this next year? They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to keep paying $1,000 a month, and you're going to keep accepting $1,000 a month. And before you know it, 3, 4, 5 years have passed, and you're way below what market rent is now. And that puts you in a bad situation. If you're in an area that's rent controlled, you can only raise it just a teeny bit once a year. And you don't like have catch up. Like you can't say, oh, well, I didn't raise it for the last 5 years, so I'm going to go ahead and do all those rent increases now for the last 5 years. It doesn't work that way. On that 5th year, you can raise it that small teeny bit. And those other 4 small teeny bits, they're gone. Goodbye. See you later. You're never going to get that back. And that's going to greatly affect the value of your property if you're in an area that's rent controlled and you want to sell it and the income is so much lower than it needs to be. You're going to get an offer for that property that's so much less than what it might be worth. But you might say, okay, well, my area is not rent control. What does it matter? I'll raise the rent when I'm ready and I'll keep it as low as I can, as long as I can. Let's say you have this person $1,000 a month, and let's say 5 years passes, right? And you haven't done any increases. And you're looking at your books, you're looking at your numbers, and wow, right? This property, expenses have gone up. The plumber's costing me more. My contractors are costing me more. Everything has gone up. The taxes have gone up. The insurance has gone up. And you haven't been increasing rents. So you look at the market rent, you look and you might say, hey, this property could probably rent for $1,400 a month now, and I'm only getting $1,000. I need to increase this guy's rent. Well, raising them from $1,000 to $1,400, that's just wrong. You can't do that. And even if you say, okay, you know what? Let's say I would only raise them 5% a year. That's $50 a year. That would be 5 years. I'll raise it $250. Is that right? To get a tenant and say to them, look, I know you've been paying $1,000 a month, but I'm raising it to $1,250 because things have gotten more expensive. Like, you're just blindsiding them. But if you were just increasing it a little bit every year, right, you're going to put a lot more money in your pocket, and you're not going to put them in a position where they're getting all of a sudden blindsided with a huge rent increase. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers now. Let's say you have a tenant and they're paying $1,000 a month, and you consider a small rent increase. I don't know, 4% would be $40 a month. That first year of rent increase, you're earning an extra $40 a month, which is how much? $480 per year. Cool. Now, at the end of that second year, right, now you raise the rent again. Again, another small little bit, 4%. It's another $40. So now the second year of increase, right, you're actually bringing in an extra $80 a month, which is $960 a year. So over the course of 2 years, with 2 small rent increases, you've actually put an extra $1,440 in your pocket over that time. And the cool thing is the numbers keep compounding. There's a smart guy that you may have heard of. His name is Albert Einstein. And he said that the 8th wonder of the world is compound interest. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. And the same thing applies not only to investing, but to your rent roll. I don't care if you have 1 unit, 20 units, or 100 units. If you don't have a renewal process, you're managing by accident. Here's the system and how it works. First, all of our leases are 1 year, and our renewals are also 1 year. And every single month on the 10th, we have a procedure in place where we go in our files and we look at all the leases that are going to be coming to term in the next 3 months, right? We look at them all and we have to make basically 2 decisions. The first decision is, are we going to just no increase in rent and renew it for 1 year? The second decision that we can make is, are we going to raise the rent and renew it for 1 year? So we go through and we figure that out, and between the 10th and the 20th, we put together all of our renewals. And then on the 20th, those renewals get sent out to all the tenants. That right there sparks potentially a conversation. Most of our tenants, 99%, are either just going to sign the lease. Okay, this is my new rent amount. I'm going to sign it. I'm renewing for another year. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to sign it. But now, why 3 months out? This gives us an opportunity to prevent what I was talking about earlier. If you reach out to a tenant and he might say, hey, I'm not renewing. Oh, cool. Now I know. I got 3 months to get my contractor scheduled, to get my leasing agent marketing and advertising the property. I'm going to be ahead of the 8 ball, and I'm going to be able to get that property rented quickly, and it's going to save me a lot of money. They might turn around and say, you know what? I'm looking for a new job, all right? And I think I'm going to have to move so-and-so, such and such a place. Okay, cool. Maybe we can offer you a month-to-month with a little bit of more of an increase in rent since you're not going to sign for a year. Maybe we can do a 6-month lease, right? And we can look at the options, but this renewal process opens up that conversation. This is a system that we built that runs every single month on the 10th and 20th to keep us on top of this process. What happens if the tenant doesn't sign? Look, we had 3 months before the end of the lease, and we reached out to them saying, hey, here's your lease renewal. This is the lease renewal that we're offering you. And tenants still sometimes don't sign. So that's why in our lease renewal, in our lease, we have a 5% penalty. So let's look at this particular situation where we have a tenant at $1,000 a month. Let's say their first lease is up and we tell them, okay, you know what, we got to raise it 4%, just a little bit. New lease amount is $1,040. Now, if they don't sign that lease and get it back to us on that 13th month, it's not going to go from $1,000 to $1,040. We're going to charge a 5% on top of it for not signing the lease renewal. Right, and that month of that 13th month is going to hit, and we're going to charge $1,090 in rent, not $1,040, not $1,000. We're going to charge $1,090, and the beauty of that is, right, they're going to maybe pay the $1,000, maybe they're going to pay the $1,040. They just didn't sign the lease, but they're not going to pay the $1,090, and we're going to reach out to them and say, hey, you paid your rent, you paid part of your rent, you paid $1,000, you paid $1,040, but your rent's $1,090. You owe us another $50 or whatever. Oh, why do I know? You said the rent was going to $1,040. I said, well, yeah, but you didn't sign the lease. If you sign the lease, we can go to the $1,040. That's great. We'd love to keep you at $1,040 for the year. But you didn't sign. So now, you're on a month-to-month or whatever the case may be, and you're at $1,090. And that usually is enough to get people to bump the priority for getting that lease signed, right? Because as a landlord, you want to have current leases and current lease renewals. It's so important in so many ways when it comes to getting bank financing, when it comes to potentially having to go to eviction court, if you want to have current documents. So this 5% increase for unsigned leases helps tremendously to get the leases signed. And it also, right, and I'm thinking about, it can also open up that conversation. There's that conversation with the tenants we talked about earlier, like, hey, no, I'm not renewing. or whatever the case may be. But they may be sitting there and not signing, right? Because there's other issues that you don't know about. And now when you hit them with now this increased 5%, that's going to get them motivated to maybe tell you what's going on. Yeah, I didn't sign the lease renewal because the neighbors that moved in next door, yeah, they are just partying all the time. They're keeping us up at night. This sucks, right? And you might, okay, now you can open up that conversation and find out, like, okay, is there something we can do about whatever the issue is? Like, you may not be able to do anything about a tenant in an attached property that doesn't belong to you, but you may be able to do something about it if it's in the same building that you own, right? And that other person is your tenant, right? So there is now this conversation that gets opened up, and you can work with the tenants. You might come and say, you might come to find out, they say, you know what? You know, we're having a kid and we need another bedroom. So we've been looking for a place, but we just haven't found one. And you might say, well, gee, I know that this other tenant that we are getting ready to renew said they didn't want to renew because they're moving out, and that's a 3-bedroom. That might be perfect for you. And now you might be able to keep a good tenant and move them into another property that fits their situation. So that's why these conversations and this lease renewal process is so important, because it, number one, it opens up these conversations and prevents vacancies, and number two, it keeps you in line with market rents. The lease renewal process is really that easy. It's only 3 things. Number one, on the 10th of the month, you look at all your leases that are coming due in the next 90 days. You put together a list, and you look at that list and you say, okay, this is the lease renewal offer I'm sending these people. You put that together, and then number 2, on the 20th of the month, you send that out to all your tenants. All the lease renewals get sent out. And then now all you got to do is, number 3, follow up. Make sure that all these lease renewals get signed. And if they don't get signed, you get in that conversation. You find out what's going on. Hey, I might be moving for my job. Hey, I might be buying a house. Hey, I'm moving out at the end of my lease. Whatever the conversation is, you're now going to be a step ahead and be able to handle that turnover much better. And you're going to continue to slowly increase your rents and keep your profitability. So hopefully it was of value to you. If so, stop by my website, chatwithchatto.com, because I got 2 things I can offer you there. Number 1, I have a PDF that you can download that's going to help you whenever you go to look at one of your properties. Check it out. It's going to keep you profitable. It's going to keep you from going back to the property, and it's going to prevent service calls. Great PDF. That's number 1. Number 2, you can also book a chat with Chatto if you'd like to have a conversation with me. And I'd love to talk to you, because it's important to me. The reason I put these videos out is because I want you to have rental properties. It is such an integral part of any retirement plan. Just having a couple properties will change your retirement tremendously. And I want to share that with people because I've seen firsthand what's possible through real estate. So feel free to book a call on my website or download my PDF and subscribe also, because that helps me. And I appreciate your hanging out at another episode of Chat with Chatto.